Three former Bank of America executives are being awarded $83 million by the SEC for exposing fraud within the bank. As a result, the Bank of America was ordered to pay $430 million to the government. While that may seem like a heavy penalty, it's not. The fact that Bank of America made $17 billion in profits that same year has some people wondering if Bank of America's financial penalty was really just a payment to stay out of jail. Joining me to talk about this is RT correspondent Trinity Chavez. Trinity, are these whistleblower cases against Wall Street really affecting any kind of meaningful change when all they have to do is pay money? What's your take on that?
Well, people are realizing the potential benefits of reporting wrongdoing in the Security Exchange Commission, and that CFTC, which is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission's whistleblower program, it's sort of been a quiet sister of the SEC, but it's crucial that the Exchange Commission maintains confidence in the U.S. stock market. This is absolutely critical to having a strong functioning U.S. economy. But if there is doubt that there is transparency, that there's not transparency into the workings of the U.S. companies, and if there's uncertainty that investors are actually getting accurate information about corporate profitability, the stock market would be vulnerable to sudden shifts as hidden information comes out. So the Security Exchange Commission increases transparency and the trust in the stock market, and that's why it's the most sophisticated and popular stock market in the world. The transparency attracts much more business to U.S. financial institutions, and it makes it easier for companies to offer initial public offering.
Trinity, at this point, we know that we really can't believe even what we read in the financial data. We saw it in 2008. What was it, 24 hours before Shearson and Lehman went out of business? They were telling their brokers in the field, hey, continue selling this. The brokers couldn't even find out what the truth was. We have this naive notion that everything's going to be okay at the highest level, that people really aren't going to lie to us at the highest level. And so we saw 2008 was an example of we just can't take that attitude anymore because they lie at the very highest level. Shearson and Lehman is the greatest example I can give you. Everybody at the very top kept all of their money, and everybody at the bottom to middle level lost all their money because of the big lie. So it's a system that's already corrupt. And I'm wondering, why is the SEC offering such an amount of money to Wall Street whistleblowers when, no doubt they were part of it in the long run? Is it really the best way to go about shining the light on corruption, or isn't it best just to throw some of these thugs in prison? What's your take?
Well, this is a way for Securities and Exchange Commission to regulate the stock market and to protect investors. To do this, they have to incentivize whistleblowers to expose security fraud by offering what they call a bounty worth between 10 and 30%. I mean, could you imagine if you got 10% for blowing the whistle on Madoff's $50 billion Ponzi scheme? The payout for that would be huge. So as you can imagine, monetary incentives, especially of this magnitude when you're dealing with millions and billions of dollars, it can encourage unreliable tips. So according to the Security Exchange, since implementing the bounty program, they have seen more than 14,000 tips. Last year alone, the commission received over 4,200. This surge could represent an increase of awareness of the whistleblower program and the growing acceptance of the role. But while the number of whistleblowing reports continue to rise, the quality of the tips still have to be assessed to see if they will ultimately detect fraud, which requires time.
I'm very familiar with whistleblower cases. We handle them all over the country. But anybody that is actually familiar with this process will tell you there's two steps that have to take place. First of all is the whistleblower case. You have to expose the fraud. But then the most important thing is not just getting the money collected. It is throwing people in prison who participate. That was the whole purpose of whistleblowing to begin with. It's where Abraham Lincoln came up with these laws that said during the Civil War, you had profiteers that were selling absolute garbage to soldiers. I mean, guns that wouldn't shoot, shoes that, would fall apart after 24 hours. And so he didn't just take money from the corporations doing that. He was throwing people in jail. And that was the whole purpose of whistleblowing to begin with. It's a two-part series. We're missing the second part. Nobody goes to jail. What exactly was the scheme that Bank of America pulled off here, and how much profit did they rake in by doing it?
Well, Bank of America Merrill Lynch was systematically misleading clients about stock trades. The bank was apparently involved in a fraudulent masking scheme designed to mislead clients about who was responsible for executing in-house orders. Between 2009 and 2015, the bank told its customers that it was executing trade orders themselves when they were actually routing them to electronic liquidity providers. The scheme affected more than 16 million client orders. Merrill Lynch admitted to wrongdoing in the $415 million settlement in misusing customer cash by holding up to $58 billion a day in a clearing account when it should have been held in a reserve. In this case, the Security Exchange Commission awarded the whistleblowers that were tied to the settlement a staggering $83 million. Two of them got $50 million, and the third one got $33 million.
Well, again, that's a good start, Trinity. And I know you cover these stories a lot, and you probably see it a lot. You see where, yeah, the regulators come in and they take some money from the company. The money is just cost of doing business. I mean, these are companies to pay out even $1 billion doesn't mean anything to them if they're making $20 billion a year. It just doesn't mean anything. So the second part of the whistleblower schematic needs to be people need to go to prison. And that's the way it was initially designed, to tell you the truth. Is it strange to you that the Bank of America ran with this fraud within the first year after they received $20 billion in taxpayer bailout money from the government? I mean, taxpayers came out of their pocket, paid them $20 billion. Doesn't that seem to say to them that, you know, the government's going to reward you no matter what you do? Isn't that kind of the message there?
Well, let's take a look at the facts. B of A Merrill Lynch received that $20 billion bailout that you're talking about in January 2009. That was after it already received $25 billion from TARP. So soon after that is when the bank started with their masking scheme. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the bank is sort of being rewarded, but the government, by the government, but the numbers and the timeline, they do raise some suspicious questions. Mike.
Yeah, well, the truth is, Trinity, if you take a look, go and you really look closely beyond what taxpayers had to pay out to make all this happen, to give these bankers a free pass from stealing more than $1 trillion from the American economy. Some people say it's as high as $8 trillion, depending on who you're talking to. But the impact that they had on the American economy and the world economy was substantial. And none of them, again, nobody went to jail. Taxpayers pay out money to keep them out, so they can keep their profits. The same people who made those decisions are still in leadership with all of these banks right now. So it's a problem that I think until we get somebody in there and until we get an attorney general, hopefully, I don't think we can expect this from Jeff Sessions, but hopefully somewhere we'll have an attorney general that says, you know what, democracy requires that we treat everybody alike, whether they're on Wall Street or whether they're on Main Street. Trinity, thank you for joining me.